Today we're going to be looking at 16 players you can catch off the waiver wire. We're going to talk about their upside and how they can help your fantasy football team. But what you need to do right now is click that subscribe button. Tap it with your finger on your phone. Click it with your mouse on your computer. And we're going over the waiver wire every single day of the week. We're also helping you set those lineups, win those trades, and everything else. Click that button. Stop missing out. Let's look at these 16 players that you can grab off the waiver wire for this week. First guy I want to talk about today, and this is not in a particular order, so it's not ranked, Pierre Strong. Pierre Strong is jumping into a situation with Jerome Ford out on the mend here, out with injury, where he could see an increased workload. We have some good size adjusted athleticism here. Runs a 4.3. Everybody's got Kareem Hunt. He's rostered in most leagues. If he's not, then obviously same thing for him due to Ford being out. But Strong has some upside. He's on waivers in a lot of leagues right now, and he could be the stash play that you want, considering Keaton Mitchell's out with a hamstring, so you can pretty much take that 4.3 guy, take him off your roster, and get this other 4.3 guy if you need to shoot for a lottery ticket. Now we're looking at Josh Downs. We look at him every week, but he still sits on waivers, and he did the thing again, and that scored fantasy points. 6 targets, almost a 30% target share on the season. He has a 20% target share. You don't let wide receivers sell on waivers with a 20% target share. If you need a wide receiver off waivers and then one has a 20% target share, you can pick them up and play the matchup, see what happens. Because really, you can't score fantasy points without targets, and we know he's getting targets at a good clip. That's something you want to look at. Now he's a hot piece off the waiver wire because he got you over 20 fantasy points, but really he's been productive for a good while now. Donta Foreman's getting touches. He's getting workload. That's something we want to see. That should continue. He should get a share of this offense, but it's the Bears, so trusting him game to game isn't not going to be a thing you should do. But you should know that he is going to be getting touches. Also, Rashawn Johnson, when he comes back from the concussion, should be getting touches as well. As his team likes to use 2 running backs, and he was ahead of Foreman prior to his injury and Herbert's injury. But still, I look for these two to split the workload to some capacity. Johnson's going to get hits. He's going to get opportunity. He's going to get workload in the passing game. Again, it's the Bears. They do weird things. They have weird game scripts. That's just something you got to count for in the future. Now we're looking at Tank Dell. Everybody forgot about him, left him on waivers. He's been dealing with a concussion. Hasn't been productive since week 3, but was going off there for a bit. He's a player that you need to pick up off waivers if he's sitting there. Don't dump him. He was one of the top dumped players last week at the wide receiver position. He's a player that you just stash and hold and see if he can get back to true form. But he was productive for that short clip there, and we could see him get back to relevancy rather quickly once he's back on the field. Darrell Henderson, productive last week, led the running backs in touches last week. Good thing to see. They put him back on practice squad. One reason why he's on here, we want to talk about last week. We want to talk about that news and watch the news with him going forward. If you already got him rostered from last week, watch the news. If you're looking to pick him up, watch the news. Just watch the news. That being said, Royce Freeman was getting touches last week. He did not get demoted back to practice squad. Looks like he'll get goal line works, some usage. The bigger back, Myles Gaskin. I don't have anything up on him. Another lottery ticket back as he's good in the passing game. They mentioned Zach Evans a little bit for this week's game as well. Not trusting that at all, but a huge lottery ticket nonetheless. Rashee Rice, though, has been dependable. He went from an up and down fantasy contributor to a guy that's giving you some baseline production that you can play the matchups with. He's not going bonkers. He's not a top tier wide receiver, but he's in a top tier offense that's allowing him to get production. The targets are there. 5 to 6 targets a game, 15% target share in his last game, 13 on the year. Really want to see him get more deep targets and really want him to command a larger target share. And if that happens, you got yourself a big play. Now we're looking at Jackson Smith-Njigba with DK Metcalf out. He went off, and that's a good thing because that means he's trending up, and that may lead to something down the line. Wide receivers with top-tier draft capital, sometimes they hit in the back half of the season because they are talented. They're in situations. and sometimes they need that ramp-up period. He also missed most of the season last year, if not all of it, at Ohio State, and then started this season off injured. So you got to expect things to be up and down with him with this much competition in the offense, but still, with Metcalf out, he produced, showed some signs for life, and is a huge upside play for the rest of the season. Tyjae Spears is another upside play as he's getting a lot of snaps, over 50% on the season. Something happens to Derrick Henry, everybody's going to want Spears. If you got a spot on your roster, and if you need a stash back, he's a good stash back because you know something happens to Henry. The opportunity share's going up, probably 40, 50, 60%. Snap share's going well above 50. He's getting more than 8 points per game. That's what he's getting right now. Should be hitting double digits easy if something happens to Henry. Maybe stash Spears. Now we're looking at Kendrick Bourne. If you need a wide receiver who runs routes and gets targets, but is productive once every 5 games, sure. But targets is what we're chasing. 20% target share. Targets means opportunity, and he could be getting opportunity here and there. So that's what it is with Kendrick Bourne. You just don't trust the Patriots, but the opportunity is there with this guy. Now we're looking at Dalton Kincaid. Dawson Knox out for a bit. We've talked about him in a lot of videos this week. 15.5 PPR fantasy points this week. First week that he really hit. Production hasn't been there. Workload hasn't been tremendous. It's been kind of okay for a rookie tight end, but still we need more for redraft here. Considering the volume here for the Bills and how they like to target the tight ends, this could be a big get off the waiver wire. Still, I'm not huge on tight ends. I like to play the matchups with them, but you do you. There's a lot of other young tight ends too who are emerging as well this late into the season. Also, Devin Singletary seeing an increased workload, seeing some snaps, taking away some touches from Dameon Pierce. He was forgotten about because he was on the bye week last week. So a guy you may want to look at. He'll probably make it through waivers and you can pick him up off the cheap. Now we're looking at Elijah Moore, another guy you can probably pick up off the cheap after waivers go through. He's getting a 20% target share. He's getting targets. And that's really all you can say. You put him in your lineup, you close your eyes, see what happens. But if you're getting 7 targets a game, you're going to have some games where you score some fantasy points. Might catch down the back 9, might not with the quarterback issues we have here in Cleveland. But still, targets are going his way, and that's something you don't see much on the waiver wire. Now we're looking at Cam Akers. He's getting more touches. 12 last week against the 49ers. He's looking explosive. Looking like he's the back to get and could turn on over the back 9 of the season. As always, we got to talk about Rashid Shaheed because if you like them deep threats, he's the one to try to get because he's getting about a 15% target share, 13 to 15% game by game, running a lot of routes, and there's competition in his offense. Chris Olave is getting arrested speeding away in his car while Shaheed's speeding away with all these air yards. But 81 air yards a game is something to look at because if you bring in a deep ball or two on a gamble in your lineup, that could be enough to get you that splash week. That could help you win your matchup. Again, a lottery ticket gamble from week to week. Not a get for consistency, but a get to gamble with. But still, that's what you got to look forward to on the waiver wire because there's not going to be any studs sitting there. But those are 16 players sitting on waivers that you can look at right now. Pick the guys you want. Pick the guys that fit your strategy, your mold, your lineup, your depth chart, whatever you need to do. Let me know who you're picking up this week in the comments below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. Catch you on the next video.